Hey everyone, this video is all about how to counter Sylas. If there is a champion that you can't seem to play against in your solo queue games and you simply don't have enough bans, leave us a comment and let us know who you'd like to see next. If you're interested in learning more about Sylas or any other champion, head over to the Mobalytics website where you can find all sorts to help you out, including builds, tips, tricks, combos and plenty more. So Sylas is a very unique champion where no two games are the same due to his ultimate being so different every game. Sylas can engage, disengage, peel, assassinate or whatever job you need him to do depending on the game and the champions he faces. Aside from his ultimate, Sylas is a skirmishing monster with good mobility, burst and crazy self-healing. Sylas is not a champion you want to let get too far ahead. Sylas' main strength is definitely his unpredictability. It's very hard for you to judge how to play against him as he can constantly mix it up by stealing all sorts of different ultimates. He's also very strong without his ultimate due to his high mobility and strong self-healing. Late game he has such a short cooldown on his W, allowing him to constantly sustain throughout fights. Sylas' main weaknesses are his high ability to be bursted down while CC'd and the fact that he can have a lot of difficulties in the early lane phase, particularly in bad matchups. So now we're going to cover the 5 main things that you can do to counter Sylas, and then we will be breaking them down further throughout the video. The first and probably most important way to counter Sylas is to simply CC him. Yes, you could argue that this is accurate against any champion, but Sylas' survivability depends on his constant healing with his W. CCing and bursting him is the way to take him down. The next one is to buy anti-heal. We wouldn't ever advise playing against Sylas without purchasing anti-heal. It's crucial to taking him down. The next one is to track his ultimate steals. Thankfully, you can see what ability Sylas has stolen, as this is key to playing against him. If he has a Malphite ultimate for example, you're going to need to prepare yourself for it. The next tip will be to punish his cooldowns, especially in the early game. Sylas' cooldowns are pretty high and this is the window you'll need to abuse to punish him. And the last tip is to 1v1 Sylas when his ultimate is on cooldown. This tip is focused in a solo lane or in a 1v1 scenario. Sylas can only steal your own ultimate once and then he can't steal the same ultimate for 200% of your cooldown. You can definitely abuse this and force a fight before he has it back up. Just be aware if he does get it from your jungler or a different lane, as obviously this changes this completely. So at what point is Sylas strongest and at what point is he at his weakest? Well, Sylas is strongest in the mid game when he has his core damage items and can look to force skirmishes and fights around dragons and objectives. Sylas is weakest in the lane phase as this is where he's the most punishable and you can look to get him into a big gold deficit. So in the early game, Sylas' self-healing will be pretty manageable due to his low skill level abilities and his cooldowns in general being pretty high. Try to bait out these abilities and then fight him when those cooldowns are down. Every time Sylas uses an ability, he gains a stack of his passive. This will give him an empowered auto attack, so try and avoid him and stall out the timer after he uses an ability. Sylas doesn't have the best farming capabilities early game, so if you push him in and force him under the tower, he can really struggle to keep up without wasting all his mana to farm. Then you can look to harass him under the turret and punish this further. Just be careful that you don't get ganked while doing this. Be careful not to force early skirmishes as Sylas usually thrives in these scenarios. Focus on keeping him in lane and getting a gold lead. Fighting in the jungle gives him a chance to gain an unnecessary lead and then take it out on you in the lane. Now moving on to the mid game. After buying a few items, Sylas will be looking to force fights and objectives whenever he can to abuse his strong mid game. Try to avoid fighting him on his terms and aim to catch him out before a fight breaks out. Make sure by this point you have plenty of anti-heal across the board, as his W will be healing him for a hefty amount by this point due to maxing the ability and having extra items. Be aware of which ultimate he has stolen and position accordingly. For example, if he's got an allied ability which poses a big AoE engage, make sure you stay in plenty of space and don't group up. If he's stolen an assassination ultimate, stick by your teammates and peel back. There are a ton of different scenarios here, so just make sure to change your plans and adjust accordingly. Finally, moving on to the late game. In the late game, Sylas will basically do everything he does in the mid game with a little bit more damage, so be sure to still follow the same tips we gave in the mid game about playing around his ultimate choices and trying to catch him out before any fights break out. Be wary of Sylas flanking. He can do this pretty well and most of the time he'll have TP which will enable him to get behind teams easier. Look to ward him out and always be thinking about where he could be, don't let him get the jump on you. Last but not least, save the important CC for him. This is obviously highly situational as it depends on the rest of the enemy team. But as we mentioned right at the start of this video, Sylas can stay alive forever with his healing on his W if he's not CC'd. So moving on to itemization that you can pick against Sylas to help counter him and shut him down. Mercury's treads are always a useful item versus AP matchups and especially so versus Sylas due to the stun on his E and the potential CC from any ultimates. Anti-heal. We've said this already and we'll say it again. Make sure you're buying anti-heal no matter what role you're playing against Sylas. Hex Drinker or more of Mobalytics. If you're playing an AD based champion, this can be a great pick to negate Sylas' burst. Zhonya's Hourglass or Stopwatch. This can be useful to avoid Sylas' second E, as usually you can predict he's going to use it after his E1. You can also avoid tons of potential ultimates with its immunity. Spirit Visage. Sylas' main strength comes from his magic damage and his healing, so by picking a Spirit Visage you'll prevent some of his damage and also look to fight fire with fire when it comes to sustain, especially if your champion has some form of inbuilt sustain already to benefit from this item even further. Okay everyone, that wraps up our How to Counter Sylas guide. We hope it helped. If you did enjoy this guide, you can find more counter videos on our website, and feel free to subscribe to our YouTube channel to be alerted when we upload new videos. Thanks for watching, and we hope to see you again soon.